Susie, Jane, thank you very much. That was lovely. I'm meant to be talking, you may have guessed, about the marathon today. I'm not sure I am remotely qualified to be talking about marathons, having not managed to actually run for 35 minutes and for anything longer than 35 minutes, and have still not managed to actually run for 5K, even running for 35 minutes. I definitely kind of don't qualify for marathon running. Our son Dan got a lot closer. But Carol and I still prefer not to think about the fact that he spent 3 days in hospital when he didn't finish his marathon, or the fact that he's threatening to do it all over again and put us through all the anxiety and the worry in October. So pray for us, please, when he's doing it, because he's as stubborn as they come. So we're thinking about marathons. We are thinking about what Paul said in that reading, if I could have the slide up, pressing on toward the goal. That's kind of eternity, to win the prize for which God has called us heavenward in Christ Jesus. So we're kind of thinking about the Christian life as an endurance race of staying faithful right unto the end. Now, sadly, the men's marathon was only last night. I did stay up just for the purposes of research to watch it. Once I started watching it, it was just so mesmerizing that I couldn't stop watching it. And I also started to understand why people don't finish marathons. They were dropping like flies, literally. So kind of rather than illustrating this from the marathon, the Olympics itself, I thought I would share a few other stories of athletes from the Olympics. And I don't know whether you're into it or not. I always think I'm not into it when it starts, but by the time it gets to the end, I'm trying to watch as much of it as I possibly can. And that's been true to course this time. I've been frustrated that I've not seen very much of it. Really miss seeing the cycling because I love the velodrome cycling. But one of the things that fascinates me about the Olympics is not just whether they were in the race or not. It's the backstory of the people's lives. So many people have gone through such adversity to get on the track, never mind to win the prize. And so I just thought I would tell you a bit about some of my heroes from this year's Olympics. Actually, I should say heroines, because they're all women, and they've all, I think, been totally and utterly inspirational. The first one I want to talk about is Laura Collett. I don't know whether you saw her. She was part of the 3-person equestrian eventing team that won gold medal. And her story is just one of overcoming disaster. She fell with her horse 8 years ago. The horse landed on her, and she was brought back from the brink of death 5 times. She was left with a punctured lung, a lacerated liver, a fractured shoulder, 2 broken ribs. She had to be put in an induced coma for days, and at the end of it all, she was blind in one eye. I don't think I would look at a horse again, much less get on one, let alone compete kind of internationally and competitively. It just seems to me, where do people find that sort of courage and that sort of dedication from? Here's another. You can't have missed this young lady. Sky Brown. No one's missed Sky Brown, surely. No? Our youngest Olympian and youngest medalist. Her name is totally appropriate, Sky, because she seems to spend more time in the air than she does on the ground. She took bronze in the skateboarding. She fell on her first 2 rounds, But what makes her achievement remarkable is that just a year ago, she fractured her skull, she broke bones in a fall in training. And yet, as she's 13, she was 12 when she was doing that. At 13, she's come back from that and she's won that medal. Just being at Tokyo is a huge... This is her. She was meant to land on those. It's something like 30 foot up, and she went through the gap and landed on the ground. That was a year ago. Her parents didn't want her to do it. I don't think I want my kids to do it. Yet she was still determined to come back. This is what she said. I think the message is you can fall, but you can also get up. Bad things happen, but good things usually happen after them. And then it seems like a modern proverb, actually. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I just think, what an amazing young lady to have that courage, that determination, that kind of go-get-it attitude. Just amazing. But my favourite, for different reasons, is Bethany Shriver, who was on the BMXs, who won the first BMX gold, with the guy in the BMXs who only got silver. Girls won. She had so many ups and downs on the way to winning that medal. Like the other two people I've talked about, there were injuries. She's fractured her wrist 3 times. In 2014, she broke her leg. They put a metal plate in it. And in her first training session, she landed so badly that the metal plate was forced back up into her leg and broke her leg again on the first time she got on the bike. Again. And yet, she still carried on doing it. Everyone had written her off. And then 18 months before the Olympics, some genius decided that this wasn't a great prospect for a medal. So they completely cut her funding. And so to get there, she had to crowdfund £50,000 to be able to complete her training whilst working as a teaching assistant. And a lot of the people you see on there, you feel some of them come from a place of privilege. She's just an ordinary girl from Essex that wanted to pursue her dream. And I just think that is just amazing. And so I love watching the events and the races and whatever people are doing. But I love hearing the backstories, the things that kind of show kind of how people triumph in the face of all the odds being stacked against them. And there are just I could just talk for hours about this, really. I'm really quite impressed with myself because this is the guy who won the Olympics. This is Eliud Kipchoge, who is really described as the greatest marathoner of all time. He holds the world record of 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 minutes. That would be a quick marathon. Everyone thought he was 1 marathon too far, and yet he won last night. And I've just been fascinated by what does it take to run a marathon, and how might that compare to us running our race? And there are just a number of things I just thought I'd pick up on and talk about. Well, first of all, you have to train. Daniel, at the moment, is running and getting ready for... how far did he run yesterday? Daniel's practice run yesterday for his marathon in October was 32 kilometres that he did round Munich yesterday. Apparently, you've got to be doing over 50 a week just for an ordinary person to be doing 50 miles a week for an ordinary person to be doing a marathon. Never mind what a Kipchoge does when he trains. So if you want to run, you have to run. That's interesting, isn't it? To run, you have to practice running. And that really resonated me. You see, to me, it seems to me that if you want to get ready for heaven, then you need to live like you want to live in heaven, but now. That's how we prepare for heaven, by living and demonstrating the characteristics of heaven, love and devotion and commitment in our lives now. If you want if we want to go to heaven, live by heaven's rhythms in our lives now. Live in the practice of God. Seek his presence. Actively seek it at every opportunity. If we're going to spend eternity with God, that's our goal. That's what we're striving for. Well, we need to let his character permeate our lives in the here and now. Apparently, you need the right footwear. I don't possess the right footwear. I run in tennis shoes. Apparently, that's not good for you. Carol went out and invested in running shoes. Shall we just say a bit of a mixed blessing? Because they changed how she ran and they gave her a calf strain. So we've had to kind of go back a few weeks in kind of our running so Carol can kind of get used to the new shoes. Paul says in Ephesians that we should have our feet shod with the gospel of peace. We need to be, just like a runner needs to have the right equipment, we need to be adopting the right things in our lives. The next thing is that apparently if you want to run well, perhaps this is why we have failed to get past 35 minutes and failed to complete kind of 5K. And if anyone is offering to help us, we're happy to receive it. But apparently if you want to run well, you need a coach. Apparently running isn't just about running. We can all run better. And that resonates too, doesn't it? We're not meant to live the Christian life on our own. We're called to be disciples. We're called to seek out others that will help us on our journey. We're not meant to be doing it on our own. And one of the things that they also really, really helps them is to listen to the crowd. And often, kind of one of the things they've said about this Olympics has been that actually it's been hard competing because they've not been able to feed on the noise of the crowd around them. And for me, one of the strangest sights, I don't know whether you saw it, was Laura Muir, who got silver in the 1500 metre. She was about to go back and get changed after the race, climbing up the steps with the girl that won gold medal, and they were turned round and they were told they had to do their lap of honour. And they did their lap of honour, which looked fine to begin with, because the cameraman was obviously running backwards very fast in front of them, and you just had these two girls running round doing their lap of honour. It was when the cameraman went off to the side that you realised that they were doing their lap of honour in a completely empty stadium. So they, having run 1,500 metres at breakneck speed, they had to run around an empty stadium pretending to do a lap of honour with no one there cheering them on. And I just found that totally bizarre. The writer to the Hebrews says, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. And he's basically saying that everyone that's lived the Christian life before us, they're up there in heaven now. It's not an empty stadium we're called to run this life in. There's this great cloud of witnesses that have run the race before us, and they're surrounding us, even if we can't see us. And they're rooting for us and cheering us on right to the end. So whether we're at the beginning of that marathon, that journey of the Christian life, or whether we're kind of coming towards the end of it, be encouraged that they're waiting for us and they're cheering us on at the finish line. We're not alone. Everyone that's gone before is rooting for us. And the secret of that is what kind of Paul says in the next race. What do you fix your eyes on as you run this race? Is it the finish line? Paul says, fix your eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of your faith. We're going to continue with our prayers. Jane, I lost you. Come and lead us in prayer.